What's up guys, it's Minx. In the last video, we started setting up our texture mapping, our loaded textures. So we created a little zip function, load from zip. So we have a zip file that has all of our textures in it. And we changed the name of one of the textures to add it. Now, something I wanted to do was optimize this. So what happened? So I added a second one. I don't remember if we did this during the video, but I added a second one and tested it out for the red block. So I went back to wall, and for the red wall, we have to retranslate and rescale because what happens is the base does it. So by default, this is the default one. It will translate and scale it. However, that's being done before we assign the texture. So we need to reassign it or retranslate and rescale it. And then I just did the second one. So all I did was add that line with a 1-1, and that does it. I wanted to take this optimization a step further, not as like we're pre-optimizing everything so we don't run into issues down the line, even though we might not. This is something I think that's a good idea in general. It's a good practice, and this is generally something that we would want to do anyway. So when we load the bitmap from zip, if we go to the asset manager, we have it open. So we load it, we create a bitmap, so we initialize a new thing, we open the zip file. For each file, we go in and we do it. Or we load it. So I didn't like that, to be honest. It kind of bugged me. So what I want to do is, and this is real time. This is not me. I've already wrote this code, or I haven't written this code already, and just kind of going back over what I've done. We're gonna figure this out together, and I think I have a way to do it. I'm not sure if it's gonna be a good way, but we'll see. So what I want to do is, and we may have to make a new method and just call that method. So let me pull up my file explorer here and go to our zip file. Okay, so we have this. So I'm going to open up the folder for demonstration purposes, but this would be coming from the zip. So what I want to do is say, we're going to go into request pack because this is the one we're using, and this should apply to all of them. So if we go to the request tile, so this is the tile. So we know that this is full of 70 by 70 squares. So what we can do is say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So what we can do is say 7 times 14, there's, 98 tiles. So we can go through after we've opened it and load in 98 different, all 98 textures into our map. I think that's what we want to do, and then we want to create a, I don't know, like a sort of, well, we'd add them to the list, and then we'd probably create a dictionary to assign it, or if we know that it's like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., etc. So that's kind of what I want to do. And the way I would do that, so my initial thought was, I'm going to keep that open for now, was to go into, where is it? Game window and do it here. And they're like, all right, we want to do this. We want to say for I in range, and we know it's we'll say 98. I think that's correct. Yeah, 70 plus 28 is 98. So 98 for I in range 98. I is less than 98. I equals 0. I is less than 98. I plus plus. Do man, and we'd have to do some logic to determine the y index and x index. I think we can figure that out. So what we'll do is we're not gonna do that here because we have to reopen the file every time we call the method. What we can do is inside of the method, so we can add a new let's see here, new parameter for load bitmap from zip, and we'd say assets, or we'll say int assets to load, and we'll just say equals 1 by default. So we always do one asset unless we otherwise specify. So we'll come in here and we'll say, because we have the stream, so this loads the stream into a bitmap, and this gives us a bitmap. So we have the bitmap. Let's say for I, we'll say int I equals 0. I is less than assets to load I++. So we're thinking, say 98. So we need to determine, so if we go up here, so it's 14. So width-wise, we need to know how wide it is and how tall it is. So we would do, let's see, actually, what are the details of this? Properties, details, 980 by 490. Well, that's not good. Oh, well, okay. Let's see. So 980 divided by 70, or divided by 14, equals 70. So there's 14 times 7. Just want to make sure I get everything. 98. Okay. 8 total. 70 x 70. Each total. 14x 7. Okay. So we know everything we need to know. So we could also essentially do um, like a temporary y-index and an x-index. So we'll say I'm going to do a local or int local x index 0 int local y index equals 0. So they start off at 0, and what we would do is, oh, we're probably gonna have to, no, we're gonna have to do a separate method. That's okay, because we're gonna have to return like a list or something, or yeah, you know what? We're gonna do something real cool here. We're gonna do a reference list. So what we can do is say, so let's talk about ref real quick. C# ref keyword. So ref C# keyword. So use the ref keyword in the following context: in a method signature and in a method call to pass an argument by reference, which is what we're going to do, which is a little different than what you normally would. In a method signature to return a value to the caller by reference, we're not going to do that. We don't need to worry about this as the part of a, we don't need this. So let's, it doesn't really give us an example. Okay, so we have a normal method in C#. They initialize a equals a, or a equals 10 and b equals 12. And then they use add value a. And all it does is pass in an integer a. And then same thing for subtract. And what this will do is modify the original variable without having to like go back and get a reference to the object that called it. So what we should be able to do is that same thing. So we should be able to pass in our, let's see if we go back to game windows, we should be able to pass in a list of images and call it a texture list and reference that. So we say asset manager. Man, this sucks. So let me do this. Let me make this a little easier. Since we're off screen after height, we'll come here and do this. Then same thing for this. Go. List of image. Where to list to add assets. There we go. Okay. So we're going to pass that in, and we're going to set it equal to null. We don't need to pass something in. Man. Yeah, that should be fine. So we'll talk about that. We'll figure out how to use that in a second. Well, not figure out. We're going to fix it, actually. Let's fix that now. Do a ref. Can I have a default value? Okay. Let's cut that out then and get rid of the equals null. So we're going to have to pass one through. I do want the reference. So actually, let me let me make my parameters one line and then add it in. So we'll add it at the beginning. So we'll add it here. The reason is it's not like a it's not one of these like variables that we're seeing on all of them. Something that I'd rather just have back here. Okay, so this to add assets. Okay, and then assets to load. So for so to determine which X we're in, we need to determine if width. So we're passing in, or not the width of the what we enter, but the width of this of entry.open. So actually of return bitmap, we need it of return bitmap. So return bitmap. So we take local x index is equal to. So we would say let's see here. So the width return bitmap dot width. So right now we're saying it's equal to 980 divided by, let's see. So if we divide 980 divided by let's see. We need to add in, so we need to add in which I we're on. So if we divide it by 1, we're going to be at 980. If we divide it by 2, we should still be at 980. Because we need to be at 0 until then. We need to figure out how to be at 0. So for example, let's see. So we know we're at 14 by 7. So 980 is relationship with 14. 70, right, okay. Let's see, so let's just put this in a math. So 980 divided by 14 times local x index, or not times I. So 70 times, okay, 0 would be 0, so if we're on the first one, so if we're on 1, would be at 1, or 70. So we're not going to be moving in the correct direction that way. We can't divide by it because it'll be 0. Divided by 14. Or let's say divided by 70 equals 14. Oh no, what we can do is say, because we need this to be going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we need to say local x index plus plus, and then afterwards, if local x index is greater than, so if it's greater than that point, let's see. So if it's greater than our 980, so return bitmap dot width divided by, now here's where we need to determine our how many wide we have. Because we don't know, well no, our width is 70, right? We're passing in, no, because we're not passing in 70, are we? We're passing in, no, we're passing in 70, right? Pass in 70. Okay, so no, we can use that. Divided by width. So if it's 980, so if it's greater than 980 divided by 70, minus 1, because it's 0 based. 1. And we want to make sure we do the, well, division will get done first. So 980 divided by 70 equals 14 minus 1. Then we just say local x index equals 0. So it'll either equal, so it'll be, we got to do this first. So, no, actually we'll do this last. So we do that last. And then same thing for y index. So local y index plus plus. And same thing for this. We're just going to do if local y index is greater than return bitmap.height divided by the height that we want to use minus 1 local y index equals 0. Okay. And we can just do this in a more orderly fashion, I think. Just do that. So we should be getting a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 for x, and same thing for y. Now we don't want to be just going through and saying 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, because it'll just go in a diagonal, because it'll do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we actually do need to do a second for loop. For So we're going to divide by assets to load divided by width. Well, width and height are the same, so divided by width, it's fine. This will be the x, and then for int I, shoot, I'll say j. J is less than assets to load divided by height. Shouldn't matter, it should be fine. I plus plus, it could be the same because width and height generally should be the same. So divided by width, 70 minus 14, so divided by 14. Well, no, this should actually, we probably don't need to do all this wonky shit here. Excuse me. So we do need to reset the y-index to 0 every time. And we should just say local x-index plus 1 after doing it here, and local y-index plus 1 inside this loop. Oops. Okay. And all we need to do is pass in use our reference here. So if we go into our reference is list add assets. Oops. Dot add. We need to say load bitmap. So we would do this here. With this particular method. And instead of passing in the x index and y index through it, we would actually probably just ignore those and say, let's see, local x index and local y index. And we're probably going to need to handle those as well separately. So we do 0, 2, and we don't need to do this math anymore because what we're doing is we're only looping through. So we loop through the x 14 times, and each time we loop through the x, we loop through the y 7 times technically. So it wouldn't be assets to load divided by width. It would be return bitmap dot width divided by width, and return bitmap dot height divided by height, and that would give us our 14, and our 7 in this case, in this particular case. So what I want to do is print x 14 times. So I want to say, or not print it, but console.writeLine. Say money sign here on the x, let's just say xi, I don't know, a good way to put that in there. Okay, and this will add them, and we need to go in and fix our method up. So if we go to this is going to return this. We probably just get rid of the return and make it a void. Static void. Go back to game window because game window is going to be freaking out. So firstly, we can just comment these both out. Say this, not this, but asset manager dot load bitmap from asset, or from zip, excuse me. And then we say we need a path to zip, and we're going to take the same asset path, so the full asset path. And we want to give it the bitmap string name. And then we need to give it a list to add assets. So we're going to be adding this to wall textures, this dot wall textures. And then width 70, height is 70. And we don't need to do anything with x index, y index, padding, offset, or assets to load. Actually, assets to load, we actually don't need to either, because it's going to load every single asset. Oops, let's go ahead and do ref this wall textures. There we go. So we pass in the ref. Let me just double check and make sure that's correct. We don't use assets to load. So if we don't need that, we're going to remove it. I was thinking we might, but since we know the width and height of the file before we're doing it, then we're fine. Let's go ahead and start. Okay, let's see. Parameter must be positive and less than height. Parameter name y. So I'm guessing it exceeded our limit here. We're going to subtract 1 from these and see if that gets everything. Oh, yeah, because we're going from 13, excuse me. There we go. Excuse me? What is it calling this? It's calling this load and initialize textures. I didn't see anything showing up in console. Let's see, I'm gonna not sure why, but we're gonna say actually this should just work right now. If it's working, it should just work. So let's see. Create new level. Okay. X was out of range. Okay, so it's not being called. Or it is being called, but this isn't, because I didn't see it do that. So we're gonna say, just gonna add a couple console.writelines here. Excuse me. Not gonna do a breakpoint. Got found a zip file and found the entry. There we go. Okay, let's see. Okay, so it found the zip file, but it didn't find the entry. So something's going on with bitmap name. Go to game window. See request tiles. I mean, I copied it over. It's not bitmap name. I mean, am I mistaken? Copy. Yeah, it's the same. Let's see. So, I mean, could I just do... I'm confused why it's not working, actually. Let's try again. Because I have it open? I don't really have it open. Open. Oh, nope. Found the bitmap inside of the zip file. But it's not printing anything else. Okay. We can get rid of this. We know we're finding it. And maybe I was missing it before, but we are finding the bitmap inside of the zip file. But it's not going through our for loop. Is that right? So, oh, you know what? Let's console.writeLine x count. So let's add the money sign here. We need to do a little bit of debugging. I'm not sure what the particular issue is. Need to see if it's something like that. X count is 0. So why is that 0? So let's do a couple more prints here. We got turn bitmap.width. Actually, that's probably the only one we need. Comment out the other two. Is it because it hasn't finished doing it yet? Width is 70. Oh, that's the issue. We don't need uh we don't need return bitmap.width. Excuse me, that is a mistake on my part. We need the new bitmap.equals entry.open. That's all we need. We need to get rid of everything except for this. We can get rid of all of that and do that. Now we should be good. That is my mistake. Okay, now we're getting more errors, which makes sense. So we don't know if parameter is positive, but it's probably exceeding the width or height. Let's see. Oh, I want to actually check the console. Okay, width, and we're getting x equals 0, which makes sense. Expecting it to be 0. And we can actually just use I and j for this. We don't need these indexes. We can actually get rid of these indexes. Or indices, I guess. And I want to see where this happens, so I want to write j, because I need to see if it's getting through that. It's saying y is equal to 0. It's actually going through. Okay. So you can see it's getting through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 y's. Do I have this backwards? I don't see how I could. Let's swap these around here and see if that's the issue. Oh. That's not the issue. Not sure what I'm missing here. Though it is saying, oh, here we go. That's my mistake. We need to do J++ here. I, J. Didn't think I had that backwards. All right, so now we have all that. That's good. We can kind of ignore that. We should actually be able to. Okay, so it is loading something a little different because they are in a slightly different order, but we can see it's loading our textures. Now it's going to load the entire texture map. We don't know where it's going to be loading these, or actually we do know where it's going to be loading these. We know it goes through X. If we pull up the image, it goes down this list. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So we could do, if we go back to our wall here, we'd want this one to be 1. And if I wanted my red one, this is the blue one, I want my red one to be this one, it would probably be 8. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. No, I want it to be 9. 9. There we go. So now I should get like the two different like wall pieces or whatever. Now we're probably gonna have to do like a loading screen or something because we're gonna load all our textures at once. So we don't have to later. Oh, I guess I miscounted. Which one is that? It said 9. It's either that one or that one. Can't really tell because it scales it. It doesn't have circles. Okay, so nope, I needed to do 8. I guess I miscounted. Do 8, which makes sense. It's 1 plus 7. I thought that was weird. Just want to make sure I got it right before I move on. Yep, we got it right. We've got the full square piece. I think that was the one I wanted. I really don't know anymore. Let's see. Square piece 8. Yeah, this is 8. This would have been 7. Right, because 1, 7, 14. So we can kind of use this as an index. But we got 8. I think this is the one I want. I don't remember. One of those two. So yeah, now we can reference these via that. I know it's kind of goofy to be like, oh, I want the 18th texture from this file. So maybe down the line we could do like texture mapping where we say, hey, when we load this in, this one is going to be assigned to this piece in the dictionary. So we can kind of like use like instead of saying I want the 18th texture, I want the square corner text gray block texture or something, give them some names or something to reference them by, but we're not going to do that for now. We're just going to do this. So cool. So now that we're loading in all of them, we can start adding more. I wanted to get this one done out of the way because this is something that bugged me. Let's finish fixing it. So we go back to asset manager. So firstly, we don't need assets to load. Yeah, we're just going to load all of them. We're not going to use an X index or a Y index in this case. The reason being is they're ignored and unused. Already not using them. So we can ignore those. And we can make this 2 lines instead of 3. Because the reason we had it before is because we were loading a specific part of a file. Now we're loading in an entire file. There is a downside to this method. There's a couple different types of textures that might not, or that don't fill up properly like that. And it doesn't really matter. We just ignore the pieces that aren't used because they'll end up with empty space. So we could do like trim or something like that. But that's complicated, I think. It's unworth it. It's not worth it. Having a couple empty asset empty squares. I think most games end up having some empty squares anyway, so this is fine. This will do what we need it to do. So just to reiterate what we did, we changed it from loading a single file after opening up a file, or loading a single bitmap from a file is we open up the file and we load in all the separate assets from it. That does take a couple seconds, which is okay. We're probably going to have to end up doing like a, what do you call it? Progression or just a loading screen at the beginning. A loading screen is probably the best idea. So I don't know if we'll do that in the next video or if we'll do it for a long time, but we'll see. With that said, thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day.